Hello, welcome back to my garage podcast. And in this week, I'm going to be telling you guys what I've learned about investing and just kind of why you should invest from an unprofessional standpoint, or what I've learned about investing throughout my life and what I've heard people say about investing. And I'm just going to share it with you in this episode of my podcast. But before I get into that, I want to just kind of talk about how I've been feeling this week, because this is also kind of like a philosophical podcast and just kind of just share how I feel. I don't know, I've just kind of been very upset recently. I've tried to stay off social media as much as I can, but I still kind of go back here and there. And just, it's very upsetting to see what's going on and just kind of see how much like hate there is, which just hate there is in the world. And I just kind of wanted to share how I feel when I feel down, what makes me hopeful that things might be better in the future, because I like to remain a very hopeful person and just kind of always try to believe in myself that things always are, that I will always find the best solution, or that eventually it's going to work out, or it just happened for a reason. But basically, when it comes to what I see online and just seeing all the hate and just feeling that it's going to get better eventually, what makes me feel better is like right now, how these past couple weeks there's just been a whole bunch of protests, especially in Minneapolis. I think so, if I'm not mistaken, and just kind of seeing how they've reacted to their situation, and just knowing that there's people that speak up and know that when there's something that's wrong, they acknowledge it and they want to look past it and to create a better future for the people around them. And when it comes to personally, when I feel lost, or like I feel like I don't want to do anything, or I just feel that I failed at something, what really reminds me is my family and all the things that they've done for me, and how much they've done for themselves, even having less than me, and just reminding myself that it could always be worse, or that I will figure it out one day. And just based off my past experiences, just seeing how well I've done and the support that I get from my family, it just makes me feel better. And I realized that you just need to speak up and you speak out whenever there's a problem, or if you want help from somebody. Nobody's going to know, nobody can read your mind, nobody can see what it is that you want. And if you ever feel lost or scared, I feel like reaching out to those around you, especially your family and friends, and just kind of getting their feedback, it really makes me feel better. But getting back into this week's episode, I want to talk about investing, what I've learned, and kind of the reason why I want to invest. It's kind of because I have this money and it's just sat there for like 2 years or something, and I kind of want to build it, I guess, or make my money work for me. I learned a long time ago that stocks and other investments is how you build wealth. And if the career path I wanted, that I've chosen, comes true and I get to work in the field I want to, I have to have some sort of an idea when it comes to investing and how money works and just kind of the flow. I've heard this saying to diversify, but I never really understood what it was. I thought it was some stupid joke that people who understood stocks used it to keep people out, or it was just some stupid joke. But basically, I've learned what it means and just kind of realized how important it is to diversify. Well, let me give you an example, or like some background as to what it means to diversify. When you invest, and in general, when it comes to your life, there's a lot of risk. And when it comes to stocks, risk means that there's uncertainty that you have when you invest in that stock. Not knowing whether or not the company will give a good return, or if something bad might happen to the company, in which the stock will just plummet and it will just lose all the value that you put into it. So it is a good idea to have multiple pathways, so if one falls apart, then you have other options that can make up for losses that you had on one stock. And this is why many people invest into indexes like the S&P 500, the Nasdaq, the Dow, and why many people follow these because they're diversified. You can see how it's a great way to see the representation of markets. And this is what it means to diversify, in which they split the risk to have a long-term return. As I have learned, and I'm still continuing to learn, many people invest to avoid inflation. This means as time passes, your money is worth less if you have it just sitting in a bank account. And in general, many people invest into indexes like the S&P 500, which is a representation of like 500 companies, and the Dow, which is the top like I think 30 blue chip stocks, and blue chip stocks just means like the top line stocks. Because indexes grow, and there may be periods where you lose money if you invest in an index or the stock you own stays stagnant in a period of time. But if you take a look at indexes over the past year, and even if in their lifetime they've grown and haven't taken any major losses that make the useless obsolete, or like basically you haven't seen an index where it just plummeted to zero or it's just lost a major amount of money. So investing in indexes is generally a good idea. I was watching this video by Humphrey Yang, and he was talking about why in general it is better for people who have less knowledge of the stock market to invest in indexes versus individual stocks. And he said to look at the top 10 companies 10 years ago and even 20 years ago, and look at the top stocks now. Companies like Nvidia, who have taken over in recent years, and companies like Nokia, who were at the top of the world 20 years ago. And take a look at the value of the stock now. Make those predictions which are practically impossible to see, or whether or not the stock will gain or lose value, is something that professionals can't even predict. Oh my god. A weird dog is she's distracting me. Sorry. Put her away. But basically, a lot of people, if you're going to invest into individual stocks, okay, she needs to go, sorry. If you're going to invest into individual stocks, it's not really a good idea if you don't have much knowledge of the stock market, because you can't really predict how well it's going to do. Like, I use the example of Nokia. Like, now it's almost worth nothing, or it's like half the value of what it was worth like 20 years ago when it was on top of the world. And just kind of making those predictions, it's really hard to make. So following indexes or investing in indexes as a beginner, it's a very good idea. But I can't really say much because I'm still learning. But there's still a lot of research and things that I have to do to become like pretty proficient at this stuff. But this is my opinions on this, on indexes and individual stocks. And so in general, it's just safer to invest into indexes versus personal stocks if you don't have much knowledge and you just kind of want to put your money away and just kind of get a good return eventually. And as I continue to learn about investing, I can see why people who hold long-term wealth have many stocks that they hold even when it is a good time to sell. Like my uncle, he has stocks, and he's tried to sell them, but my aunt, she's always told him to keep them. And because they just believe that's just going to keep going up because they're pretty good stocks, because he got it when he signed on to work for this company. And even now, those stocks are still gaining money, even when he tried to sell them. So it was a good idea for him to keep it. And because that's kind of human nature. And with tools like the internet, it becomes even easier to invest, because before the current era of the internet, people had to call or go in person to a stockbroker who would place trades for them. And that's kind of what the Wolf of Wall Street's about. Like, if you've ever seen that movie with Jordan Belfort, he was a stockbroker. He placed trades for customers to invest in stocks, but now you can just do that online, or you can install apps and invest with apps like Fidelity, Charles Schwab, or even Robinhood. and kind of what I've understood, Fidelity is kind of, from my understanding, Fidelity is kind of like the middleman. Charles Schwab is kind of for like people who are proficient and people that have a lot of money, and like Robinhood's an app where it's like, from my understanding, it's like a beginner friendly app. And that's kind of what I learned this week about investing. And there's still a lot more things I need to understand, but on other news, the S&P 500 and the S&P 500, Nasdaq, and Dow have recovered, averaging around a 2% increase over the past 5 days as of February 6, 2026. Just a week or two ago, they were down like 1%, 2%. They were really struggling because of, I forget exactly what it is, but these indexes were struggling a lot. And even better news, the Dow has pushed over $50,000. Since the addition of Nvidia to the Dow has continued to push, and it is partially the reason why it has now pushed over $50,000. In this new era of AI, the Dow has gained more value. There was a time in Trump's presidency when it struggled, especially during Trump's announcement of his tariffs, in which all major indexes lost value. But even though these hard times, put my glasses on, I don't know what's happening. But even through these hard times, indexes have pushed to record highs. Investors are hopeful that this good news will continue and their investments will pay off, giving back good returns. But now my question is, once these AI companies get out of development and reach a point at which the tech sector feels as if it's ready to start making a profit, how will they approach it? How will they start to make money? Because as somebody who is just observing and watching what is happening, what will be the next steps to start making money? They have spent so much money on improving these models, but how are they going to make money? Sure, through this process, there are bound to be companies that will not make it through to be successful. But how many of these companies will succeed when many of them share the same premise as an assistant? I don't really see AI taking over jobs. Sorry, my nose is like all stuffy. It's really annoying right now. I heard that when computers were starting to roll out and become more standard throughout companies, many were fearful, believing that computers would take their jobs, but really what really ended up happening was that some jobs were taken away, but in the end, more jobs were created. And in all, it really did was optimize the process, helping more people to join and have a faster process of giving the product to the consumer. And when I say product, I mean in air quotes, not really something, a physical thing, but just products, meaning whatever the company did to make money. And I personally feel like it is the older generation that does not have a deep understanding of technology and just hear about the money that is to be made throughout technology and lumps AI into this amount of money that's to be made, believing that if they invest, they will have a good return and make a lot of money through their investments into these tech companies. And I definitely believe AI will change the way we operate in the world, and I believe that there should be a greater regulation on it to help protect people. There also has to be, there's also been a kind of like a side note, but basically there's been great developments into the Epstein files, in which many people are now being revealed to be in throughout social media, especially on TikTok, which sounds funny to say, but that is besides the point. There has been a great upset in the leaders or the people who have been part of it, but seeing how much control they have is very frightening to me. Some believe that Epstein is one of the first to be caught, but will not be the last. So that is why I believe it is important to speak up to all injustices, to change the way that the world is, and have a more just world for the future generations. And that's kind of what I have to share about this week's episode. I'm still working on trying to be smoother when it comes to my talking and just kind of focus more on what I'm saying and making it flow better. But basically, that's this week's episode, and I just want to say thank you guys, and please continue to support.